So for anybody who feels like if they want to go out there and do their own side hustle or start their own business or whatever, I did not know how. I'm not from America. I had to learn about taxes. I had to learn about credit. I had to learn about opening my own bank account. I had to learn about creating an LLC. So I did not know. So like if you think that your ignorance is an excuse, you have no excuse. Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Grad School Sucks podcast, where we believe that your career after grad school should rock. I'm your host, Matt Carlson, and today I'm talking with Mr. Warren English. Warren immigrated to the United States a few years ago and joined the U.S. Reserves before starting as a master's student in Bioinformatics at NYU. He quickly fell in love with research but became disillusioned by other aspects of academia and decided to start a business around one of his passions. This episode will be especially interesting for folks who are interested in the process of immigrating to the U.S. to do graduate level work, anyone who wants to start their own business from scratch, and those who want insight on how to maximize their physical potential. Without further ado, let's get to the interview. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank Mr. Warren English for coming on as a guest to discuss his life in grad school and what he's currently up to now. He's got a very cool side hustle we're going to talk about, as well as some other things. So, Mr. Warren English, thank you for joining me. I was wondering if you could start off, could you just give us the elevator pitch of who you are professionally?
Okay, so the elevator pitch for me is pretty much I professionally speak. So I went to undergrad. So I'm not from America, first and foremost. I moved here in 2020. I am an immigrant. I did my undergrad in pharmacy. I actually studied that in South America. But I'm originally from the Caribbean, small little island, Antigua. So I moved from the Caribbean to South America to study. Then in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic and all the crazy things going on in the world, I moved to America. So I started my career in America working at a CVS because for me, as an immigrant with an undergrad in pharmacy, a foreign degree, in order for me to work as a pharmacist, I need to have my PharmD. I need to be licensed. So I had to make a little bit of a pivot, which I didn't mind because in undergrad, I fell in love with research and science and all that good stuff. So I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, let's do grad school. But moving to America has a ridiculous cost associated with that. And I think we've had a conversation about that in DMs before. So I decided to join the reserves. I saw that was one opportunity for me as an immigrant. So joined the reserves in the U.S. Army. It was a very challenging but very growth-oriented opportunity. The military gave me like $30K for school. I was able to get into NYU for a master's in bioinformatics, and the story there was a story between there, the whole process of how that went and whatnot. We can get into that later. And then I did my first semester, really loved it, got into a great lab. My professor was amazing, academically speaking. But I found out some things later on that kind of made me a little disillusioned at the end of the semester. Ended the semester, 4.0 GPA, worked my ass off. But then, like I said, I got a little bit disillusioned at the end, and I decided that it probably wasn't the path for me. So I took the opportunity to take military leave. I did a 1 month with my unit. They were preparing for going to Kuwait. I wasn't going to go with them, but I just decided to help out. Got a year of military leave off from grad school. Decided to go a little bit more all in with my fitness business, and I got into the world of that. And then started exploring other options because my mind was always on healthcare, academia, science. And then when I started to look at other options, then I realized, oh my goodness, there's so many other things available to me with my skill set and what I can do and what I can learn and achieve in the world without having to read all the academic articles and So that's my story.
That's awesome, dude. There's a lot there to unpack. So what initially drew you to grad?
My undergrad. Being in pharmacy, it's healthcare, and when it comes to healthcare, it's data driven with practice. So there's a lot of research that has to go into it, and coming from basically what we would consider a third world country, or third world countries, basically where I'm from. There isn't a lot of research, within what we do, and healthcare isn't the best. So as an individual who wanted to see the best in my area at the time, I decided that I wanted to go into research to kind of help develop things. And I think that's where a lot of people come from. It comes from a place of altruism and seeing the real benefits of science and the grand scheme of humanity and all that. So that's where it really came from. And then also, I'm personally a little bit of a bookworm, so getting into all the exciting things about like genomics and AI and the potential for that in the human future and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, well, maybe, and being in pharmacy, we talk about precision medicine and implications and blah 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 blah. So that really drew me to it. And when I got the opportunity, I got to get my green card and come to America. I was like, wow, this is actually going to be real, because I had no idea how to do that if I didn't get my green card and got the opportunity to come to America.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you have a real passion for health, health-related things.
Yeah, absolutely.
When did that passion blossom? Was that something you've had for a long time?
Yes, I would say. So when I was young, I observed a lot of things within my culture and my family. So in the Caribbean, and this is only something I came across in my undergrad thesis, but you just kind of like observe these things as you're growing up. In the Caribbean and in Guyana is actually, I think it was a 2013 study that ranked Guyana as the number one. Has the number one ranked amount of deaths from cardiovascular diseases. Yeah, so they're ranked number one in all of the Western world, not excluding like the Eastern world. And I just personally living there, I see it. The way that their diets are, and the way that things are marketed. Like the entire economy is probably pushed off of like sodas and like beer and alcohol and partying and stuff like that. And they eat a lot of very calorie dense, flour filled, sugar filled things. Right? So I noticed a lot of that, and I noticed a lot of it in my family as well. My mother's obese, and my dad suffers from hypertension, and my grandparents suffered from diabetes. And I mean, my grandpa on my dad's side, he recently, I don't know, correlation, causation, whatever, but he recently got diagnosed with cancer. So there's a lot of health conditions that are just going on, and I got scared. I want to stay clear of that. I remember one of my aunts, she actually got a stroke, and like half her face is left drooping now, man. So like I've been privy to all of the terrible consequences that comes from not taking care of your health, not being cognizant of your diet and your nutrition, exercise, all of that. So that really pushed me in the direction, okay, I don't want to do that. So I tried my best to learn as much as possible about being healthy and taking ownership of your health and trying to provide that value now to the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's so funny how those early experiences with your family can guide, some of those values and those questions. Not to get into it too much, but my family upbringing, we had some experiences with mental illness, and then I became a therapist, a decade later, and at the time, I just thought it was a coincidence, but, looking back, it's funny how a lot of the foundational things can guide our thinking. So very cool. So when you went into grad school, you went to the reserves before grad school, right?
Yeah, I was not about the whole student pet thing. I really wanted to avoid that as much as I could. So I saw that as an opportunity, and I thought it was just pretty cool. They market the Army really hard here, man. Like they do a good job of that. They got me. Yeah, I don't regret it, but they got me.
Yeah, Yeah. So would you say your experience in the reserves was like a net positive?
For sure. I mean, as somebody who I could say it's a net positive because I think even though I was born and raised in, let's say, in like a third world environment or whatever, I don't think I had it that bad. I don't think I suffered, as much as, and I think it shows. I mean, I'm in good health. I have an education. I have access to like books. I mean, I'm here talking to you from my $1,000 laptop. Right? So I didn't have it that bad. And going through the military and basic training and all that just kind of showed you what it's like to just not have any of your freedom whatsoever, and just being under complete control of authority. And it sucks, but oh boy, it teaches you something about to value what you have in terms of your freedom, and then also a lot about hard work as well, because they really push you. They put you through a lot, physically and mentally. So I got a lot of value from that, especially.
That makes sense. So when you were in the reserves, were you already thinking about grad school at that point?
Yeah, when I was in so the story between grad school, me getting to America, joining reserves, and then actually getting into grad school is, and this is probably going to be a great tip for people who are actually looking into it. And I believe you talk about this at length as well. Like if you want to get into grad school, you want to get into a good one, and I think NYU isn't that bad. You you need it's really helpful for you to have a mentor, right? I didn't know anything about applying to American schools. Like, there's like the GRE, and then, it's like personal statements and, all the things. I knew nothing about that, right? I was just like figuring out as I go at first, and I got rejected a bunch of times. And then when I came to America, I realized like all these mentorship programs and stuff like that. And I applied to a bunch of them. And then I found myself with a mentor from one of them called, there's a mentorship program called Carry Scholar. So this one is like particularly for individuals who come from the Caribbean, and they pair you with someone else who is from the Caribbean, who is going to like a pretty good university. So my mentor is a PhD candidate at Rockefeller University. He's doing neuroscience, and given that we're kind of in the same biomedicine realm, he helped me put together my application, kind of guided me through the process. A large portion of the mentorship was really helping me overcome my own limiting beliefs and fears, just being an outsider, because that was the biggest thing for me. And that's been a big thing for me coming here. Like I've had a lot of limiting beliefs because I feel it's so insignificant not coming from here. And the mentorship helped me overcome that. So that's like the biggest thing that happened in between there. So he helped me put together my application. I applied to NYU, applied to Cornell, I applied to what's it called, Hunter College. I applied to Albert Einstein. That's Yeshiva University. And I forget, but yeah, I think Mount Sinai, Icahn School of Medicine. Yeah, I've gone into NYU, took that one, and then just kind of ran with it. Yeah.
So when you were applying for grad school, did you have like a future career in mind at that point already?
Yeah, I was. I mean, as much as I said I had a lot of limiting beliefs, I still kept lofty goals. So literally, my goal was MD PhD. I was like, I wanted to go all the way, either MD PhD or like fine. Yeah, and maybe who knows? Maybe it was too much of a lofty goal, but aim for the stars and hit the moon, right? Yeah.
That's awesome. So, and then at NYU, you're going for your master's of bioinformatics. Could you, so I'm in the soft sciences, quote unquote, social sciences. Could you give just a brief for people who may not be familiar, what is bioinformatics?
So bioinformatics is a pretty broad spectrum I like to call it broad spectrum now because at first when I thought about it, I was only thinking like genomics. You go into the genome and then you use you get all the data. So they do the next level sequencing, all the different types. There's many different types at this point. They got some cool stuff coming out. I believe that nanopore is like one of the latest ones that's getting really good. And yeah, so there's the genomics, which is like you're taking all that data from your genomes, and then you're doing all the machine learning to get data and use that to extrapolate or make inferences about some relationship between the genome and some phenotype, but all of that. Then there's things like computational neuroscience, which kind of still falls into the realm of bioinformatics to some extent. So long story short, just taking a bunch of data from the human body, or there's the different aspects of it. So there's your genotype, there's your what's it called, your genome, then there's your transcriptome, there's your proteome, there's all the different proteins in your bodies, all the different enzymes in your body. So all of that data, you take it and you just make a bunch of statistical inferences from them using machine learning principles. So you use Python, you use R, all the coding packages and stuff like that. And that's my my one semester of grad school definition of it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific research area?
Yeah, so I was in the New York Genome Center. Felt really lucky. It's a lot, to be honest. And I was a little bit sad to leave as well because I thought it was just like such an amazing opportunity. My professor was a really cool guy. But yeah, I was in the New York Genome Center. I was working on a project where we were looking at the epigenome. So we're taking, if you're familiar with like epigenetics and stuff like that. Yeah. So we were looking at the epigenome and some factors that are associated with a particular type of breast cancer cell type. What parts of the epigenome play a role in the type that we were looking at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you did one semester of grad school and then you took military leave. Is that right?
Yep. So I'm actually still currently on military leave. That goes all the way until next year of January. But given my experiences since I've left, I don't think I'm going to go back.
Oh, very cool. Well, let's get to that in just a second. What was your one semester in grad school like? Did it meet your expectations? Did it fall short?
If I'm being honest, it kind of fell short because, again, I felt like I had a very lofty expectation of America coming here, and I don't know if a lot of other people who are coming from like out of America, like immigrants, and have this whole idea, this kind of large, grandiose idea about coming here and doing all the things about it. But so my mind was anchored on a lot of books that I read, and I when I was back in Guyana, I'd read about high level people. Like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with like Edward Wilson, and so he's like I believe he's a professor emeritus. I think he died recently actually, but the guy is a brilliant person. He wrote a bunch of books in science. One of my favorites is Consilience. Really great book for anybody who's in like the natural science, biology, and all that. Talks about the Consilience is basically the idea of putting together what you learn from the hard sciences, so like physics, and how that goes into chemistry and biology, and then up into the social sciences, and just making the connection between all of that, human behavior and biology. Which I thought was super fascinating, and then reading about other like high level scientists. So like I'm expecting when I get this is what my expectation, perhaps this is where I'm wrong. Like a lot of people who are entering into grad school, they've kind of like already gone into like all these things and all these books, and there's a minority of that. And very few people that I met have actually done that, and then even though that minority, they aren't the ones that are like taking it to like going to PhDs and like doing postdocs. In my experience, some of them do, but like there's a lot of them like the ones that are going out there and reading the books and like just kind of doing things like that, they tend to go more so towards their own thing or building their own career, building their own path, if that makes sense. Like I've learned that there's a lot of like startup type individuals within the biosciences, and I think that the higher you go up the academic chain, and this is something that I read in the books too, it's like the more dogmatic you become, and the more stuck in your ways you become, and you're less likely to go out there and do risky stuff like building a business or and there's a lot of people who do stuff like that. For example, one of the persons that I really look up to in that space is Eric Topol, if you're familiar with him. Okay, but yeah, he's done a lot. Like he built his own medical school. He's written a lot on the future of medicine as it relates to AI and genomics and the human how to make healthcare a safe human again. But yeah, there's nobody reading stuff like that in grad school. That was my expectation. I thought I had a lot of conversations about stuff like that, but I really didn't. But they do give you practical stuff as it relates to like doing research and things like that. But yeah, I didn't meet my expectations with respect to that. And perhaps that's my mistake. But in terms of the information provided, in terms of like the lab research, it's all exciting. Yeah, the lab research especially, I thought was pretty fun. I wish I got more time to do that. Honestly, in my opinion, I wish I spent less time in class and more time doing the actual research. For me, I think I learned a lot more doing the actual things rather than reading the books about the things, or like let's say sitting through a lecture or something like that. And yeah, I just kind of had enough of it by the end of the semester, even though I did well. Yeah.
Was there a certain point when you knew that you wanted to move on to something else?
Yeah. And it's going to be different for everybody, but for me, it was, there's a point in the semester where I didn't find myself being very happy. And I think there's a lot of things that has caused that. So for me, like when I came to America initially, I was more than happy. Like, I was working at CVS as a pharmacy assistant, minimum wage, like I was ecstatic. And there's a reason for that. So if I was still in Guyana, I would have had to wait around like 5 to 10 months in order to start my internship, to start getting my license to be a pharmacist there. And then when I start my internship, I'd be working for, let's say, around 200 to 250 USD a month, right? And then after that, I think I barely make, I don't know, what do they make there? Maybe like 1,000 US a month. I was making that in like 2 weeks working at CVS, right? So, of course, but the cost of living here is a lot higher. So, like, I was getting anchored by my previous experience, but then as I started to learn more about America and try to understand where their standard is at, I realized that grad school wasn't really going to push me because I started to raise my own bar based on what I witnessed here. So like I felt like, with all the reading I was doing, I was at a pretty high level where I'm from. But now that I've read all these things, now that I have the experiences to go along with what I've read, I feel I wanted to take it a little bit higher than that. So right now I'm like, for me, I'm on a path of kind of pursuing the highest level of achievement that I want. And I came to a point at the end of grad school where I realized that it probably wasn't going to push me in that direction. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So the first reason was at the end of the year, we had the end of lab meeting, and I really took the opportunity to get to know my professor, which I think a lot of people should really do, because they're people. I think a lot of people get really anxious and nervous around the PI walking around the lab. I would notice that, like, whenever we're in the lab and, the PI would walk in and, just kind of like casually make conversation, everybody just kind of goes quiet and they're just looking at their test tubes and their and their pipettes and just and I walk around and I would often talk to my postdoc that was kind of like mentoring me, and like, it's so weird whenever he walks around. It's so quiet. But I took the opportunity to get to know him, and he's just like a normal person. So I heard his story, and then his story was a little bit of a disillusionment for me, where this guy, I just thought he was so brilliant, such a hard worker. But he wasn't tenured, which is like a weird thing for me, given how much work he does and how prolific he was in his research and high quality I thought it was. And so when he wasn't tenured, I mean, I'm sure he's on his way, but that was like a really weird thing for me. I'm learning about how that stuff works. And then he went to MIT for his PhD, and he did it in did his PhD in I think it's a computational neuroscience, and he had the opportunity to be under a really amazing professor. I think he got some award and apparently this award in like the biosciences is like really high level. I can't remember what the name of it is, but you get a bunch of money, and you get to do as much research as you want with that money. And basically, in his estimation, when people get that award, their career is over. Like they've hit the highest pinnacle, and a lot of them just get lazy. And he took 10 years to finish his PhD. And normally the average is, I think, brilliant guy, mind you, again, brilliant guy. 10 years to finish his PhD, and I think he did another, 4 or 5 years in his postdoc, and now he's a professor, and things are like really only taking up for him now. And as inspiring as he is right now, the timeline just didn't seem reasonable for me, and what I felt like I was capable of, the value that maybe I wanted to see myself provide to the world. So I have to kind of like take a step back and do an assessment of where am I going, what am I doing, does this feel right for me? And the framework that I use for that, and I think it works out for me, because I opened myself up to listening, reading, and learning about a lot of different things, not science anymore. Before, like 2020, 2021, you find me reading all the books about science and all the people in that realm. Now I'm a little bit more open to self-development and like even business and a lot of other different characters, and taking all of their insights from life and how they navigated the world, and just kind of using it for myself. So like one of the things I find as a common ground for a lot of people who have gotten to themselves to a point in life where they're content in all areas, right? In all areas, they kind of use, and it's so simple, but it has so much, I think, for me personally, I think so much truth to it, is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's so simple, but so much truth to it, right? So for me, I realized at that point, it's the thing that I needed most for me was the security, right? And that's only anchored based on here in America, right? Because back home, I'm balling, right? But here, my mind is anchored to the level of discrepancy in income and wage and all that here, right? And there's a social thing that happens with that, and that's the way that humans are. It's like, there's a book that I read by Robert Sapolsky, which is like I believe he's a ethologist, neurobiologist over at Stanford. Guy's pretty popular. One of my favorite books ever. Recommend it to anybody who is interested in human behavior and all that. Lots of great insights. And one of the studies that he cited was about the feeling of being poor. It has nothing to do with the number, and it has everything to do with your surrounding. So like I'm living in New York, where we can see that the wage gap is very, very big, right? So the lowest earners are the people, the amount of low income people compared to the difference of income to the highest level earners, right? It's huge. It's huge, and it's just something that happens, as a human being. And as much as you want to try to not have that influence you, it's just part of being human, So I kind of gotten into it, and as of right now, I've taken it upon myself to kind of fix that discrepancy for myself, and I'll tell you, I'm a lot more contented with it. And now that I've kind of gotten myself on the path to solving that issue, I'm having a lot more time and freedom. Or I wouldn't say it's completely solved yet because I'm still on the up and up, but I'm moving a little bit more towards that thing of fulfillment for me, right? Because before it wasn't so much about fulfillment. Like what my mind was just focused on was like, oh my gosh, I want to make more money. But now it's like, okay, I have made some money, still want to make more money, but and provide value, right? Because I don't think it's just about making money. I think that, the value of money, the way that you get your money is from providing value to others, right? So, yes, I want to make more money. I want to feel valuable by providing value. But then also, in order for you to level that up, which is something I also think is amazing about America, is that in order for you to increase your status, part of it is making money, and part of making money is by providing value. So the more value you provide to people, the more income you make, the more status you have, right? And when it comes to increasing your status and increasing your income, a lot of it has to do with improving yourself. So you are the bottleneck. So it's either for you to get whatever you want, whatever your achievement, target is. If you are not there, it's probably three things that are missing. So one is that you have a limiting belief. It's something about your belief, right? So you don't believe that you could do it in some way. You believe that you can't develop the skill, which everybody can. All you need is focus, attention, and time, right? The second thing is the character traits. So if you don't have the character traits of discipline, or if you hard work, or just being studious, or reading, or being open to learning things. And then the third thing I believe is time. And I think everybody has the time. It's just that you've got to be really intentional with what you do. And once you're able to upgrade those three things, or become aware of where you're putting those three things, then I'm learning. Again, this is all from me reading and learning a lot of things about America. Money will come to you because you're providing more value, because you become a valuable person. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Yeah. So when in all of this did you get the inspiration to start? Do you call it WeFit? Is that your?
Yeah, that's what it is right now. This most likely going to evolve because I think. So when I'm again, before I even started that, I don't know how to run a business in America. That's the first thing I want to say, right? So for anybody who feels like if they want to go out there and do their own side hustle, or start their own business or whatever, I did not know how. I'm not from America. I had to learn about taxes. I had to learn about credit. I had to learn about opening my own bank account. I had to learn about creating an LLC. So I did not know. So if you think that your ignorance is an excuse, you have no excuse, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is, again, going back to the same way I was able to successfully get myself into a grad school, and then have some amount of success in grad school. It's the same way that I did for starting my business and kind of getting myself, in a running speed. Or at least, I want to say climbing speed. I don't think I hit my running speed yet. I'm still going on the up and up. Right, but I looked for a mentor. There's a bunch of business mentorships, and a lot of people might call them scams and whatnot. Some of them maybe are, but there's some people who are genuinely providing value and giving you everything that you need. So one thing that I did for me when looking for a mentor is I have my own personal value base, right? So I look for people who have integrity. I look for people who are very dedicated to the success of the people that they work with, right? Because there are definitely people who are just, they might say they want to help you in the best way, but it's more so about profit than anything else. For me, I worked with a company called the Next Level Coaching Academy to start me off, and they helped out a lot. They gave me all the tools that I needed to get started, and there's this there's levels to it. So they help you get started, and then once they help you get started, if you want to go bigger and get and scale, you can also make a further investment to get that going. But yeah, that's the way I got that started for myself. And there might be some pivots and changes in terms of like the way I branded it, and the name, and eventually thinking about hiring people, and how I'm going to do my acquisition methods and stuff. I'm still like tinkering with a bunch of stuff. As much as they give you the underlying framework, there's a lot of work and stuff that you have to figure out on your own, because like, yeah, I think that's just generally just how business works. So
You
yeah.
can't just like say, "Give me money," and fire product.
No, it doesn't work like that.
Such
Yeah.
a science and art, dude.
Yeah, and I think that's the fun part about it. And one of this, there's a book that I read, and I think there's a parallel with academia and business, because I think people see it so much at odds, right? But there's one of the book that I read that I really like is called Scientific Genius: The Psychology of Science, written by this professor from one of the University of California. I can't remember. I think it's UC Davis or something like that. And can't remember the name of the professor, but I know he's like Professor Emeritus there. And the way he talk about like people who have made a lot of the groundbreaking research in science. And he uses a lot of research on the topic, like citations everywhere. So it's a good quality book. But what it basically boiled down to is a couple simple things. He talked about just showing up, doing the work, serendipity. The more work you do, the luckier you get, and that's how a lot of breakthroughs in science come. Of course, like you have to do a lot of quality work. Like you can't just like do rubbish all the time and expect to get lucky, but you need to do a lot of quality reps, and the more quality reps you do, the more groundbreaking research you're going to get at. And it's the same thing with business. Like you put in the reps, you show up, you do your best effort all the time, and then you get it. But the thing is, with science and with business, clearly with business, there's a clear metric of your success, and that feels valuable to you because you get money. Get money for it, right? So there's a lot of drive and impetus for you to go ahead and do it more. But I think in academia, the impetus to kind of do more research and all that is you get published in like Nature or whatever high quality journal and whatnot. But then I think there's still a lot of drawback for a lot of people, which doesn't make it as attractive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Totally does. So, when did you start posting content? Because I followed you. I followed you before you started the WeFit thing, right?
Yeah. So you followed me before because you were posting. This is when my mind was still in grad school. So you followed me before, and then I loved your memes. Your memes are just funny. I really love that. But yeah, you followed me before. I actually was starting to kind of like post content at that time, but because that's when I just moved to America, and I kind of saw the opportunity, but at the same time, I just wasn't too sure. And honestly, like I had too many fears at that time. So I didn't have the knowledge. Too many fears. I wasn't. It just definitely wasn't going to work out for me. I didn't have enough of the push because my mind was just split in too many places. Just moved to America. What's my next step? Should I do grad school? Like, what other opportunities are there? Like, can I still do pharmacy? Is there a way for me to still get my license and work here as a pharmacist? Like all these things running through my mind, just taken away from, like if your energy is split everywhere, your energy is moving, right? So, I was just split too many places, and then eventually I just had to toss it out the window and just focus on the grad school thing, and then the military thing, and then that's what I just focused on for the next year. But then, of course, now I'm completely in the other direction. So, trial and error, figuring things out as I go. That's how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And you. So I wanted to ask, do you make your own reels? Do you do all the work to do your reels?
All my reels, all my Twitter posts, all of the content that I have. Yes, I did all the work, and I mean, if you're asking that because you think they're good or they're okay right now, like that's that gives me a lot of confidence. I'll tell you what, I think they suck, right? And they sucked even more before that. So if anybody's out there who is creating content and they are a little bit worried about the quality of it and they think it sucks, post it anyway. I went to a conference, a fitness business conference and one of the top content creators in the fitness space, Jordan Sayat. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He over 1 million, followers on Instagram. He trained Gary Vee, who was Gary Vee's personal trainer back in the day. If you're familiar with Gary Vee, so yeah, super successful guy. And his greatest tip for getting yourself out there and getting better content is posting more. I said reps again, reps. That's all it takes. Reps, more reps.
Yeah, it's so true, dude. You've got and your reels, and I talked specifically about the reels because they're what ends up popping up on my feed more, and you get regularly thousands of views. I'm looking at this: 5,000, 6,000, 4,000, 5,000, 5,000. Another 4,500. When did you start? Of course, like half the audience is probably tuning out, like, oh, hearing about making reels. But if you do want to make your own business, making content is such a great way to do it, in my opinion. And
that's where the marketing starts, man.
Free. I mean, you had to have a phone, but it doesn't cost anything to post this. So when did you start thinking about doing reels and starting to make that kind of content?
Honestly, it was more so when I started the fitness business coaching program that I got into, because I still had a lot of fears going into it, because I'm not used to putting my face on camera and kind of like putting myself out there, trying to be I'll call it influencer type, but not really, because really what I'm trying to do is provide some amount of value. So it's not so much influencing, but more so, I'm giving you value so that you kind of build some trust in me, because that's what it is. It's like value-based marketing. I think that's what they call it. So I show you some value. I tell you about, how to set up your diet or how to exercise well, or, something about mindset, something that inspires you. You get some value from that, and you have a positive association with me. That's the biggest thing. You're learning about sales and marketing. It's all about relationships, right? So the more goodwill that you have, the more positive association someone has with you, the more they trust you. And when it comes to sales and marketing, it's like know, like, trust, right? So do they know you? Are you posting content consistently? Do they trust you? Or is your content actually value? And do they actually like you? So, like, do you have this type of character that they feel that they could work with? Do you share the same values that they share? And once you're hitting those three things, then eventually, right? Because it takes time. Eventually, people are going to start making those requests and starting to work with you. Yeah.
These are wise words for anyone who wants to start an online business. So. Oh, I did first want to ask before I pivot to something else. Do you remember making your first reel or first piece of content that was like, sharing something or challenging yourself?
Yeah, my first reel. So it's hard to say my first piece of content, because I when I started posting on social media, I was more of an athlete, and just kind of like sharing my journey, not really with any type of intentions of selling anything, just felt like, I'm doing this thing. I think it's cool. Look at me. Right. And I think the first time that I did it with intention, and let's say reels, because I think reels is a huge intentional move on social media. The first reel that I made, it was probably earlier this year, maybe around January or December last year. And I just broke it in. I broke it in with something simple, something that wasn't too hard for me, just a video of me lifting. And then I put like a couple of captions about, make sure you do good form, blah blah blah. This is getting so you're still providing some value, but it was a low barrier to entry, like the least uncomfortable thing possible. But then I started to do more with like actually doing videos of me talking and stuff like that, which was very uncomfortable. Every time I posted one, I was like, oh man, I want to delete this. But you gotta push through those, because like I said, it's about reps, and the more uncomfortable things that you probably put yourself through, the better. Because you're gonna if you want to grow, and I'm just saying what I've learned from other people and what I've kind of experienced, because I'm still a baby. I'm still a baby in the realm. But yeah, if you want to grow, you're going to have to really adopt a lot of uncomfortable situations. So this is a low barrier to entry type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I remember when I started making memes, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and I remember it getting traffic and that being interesting to me. It was also perfect timing because the pandemic had started and everyone was on their phones.
You got it at a good time, man.
Oh, it was a great time. I kicked myself because I made my account private back then.
Yeah, because I saw that.
I was still working as a research scientist, and I don't know. I grew up reading books like 1984, and so I'm always a little not paranoid, but just aware of how authorities might perceive me. So anyway, yeah, I remember having my account private and getting so much interaction, and I wish I would have had it public because my account would have grown way more. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the pandemic was a great time, and I remember getting to that place as a content creator, I suppose, where I started to share more of myself and my own experience just in the captions of my memes. And even that, I was like, ooh, this is doing push-ups with your heart or something. It's like an emotional workout to share things sometimes.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Especially when 1% of people online are just gonna hate you and what you share just because they're having a bad day.
Yeah, you said the most important thing, 1%.
Yeah,
and that's the one that really gets you, right? Our minds are programmed to notice all of the negative things. So that one person out of 100 that says one bad thing is going to stick out. And we're going to be like, oh man, I should never say that again because this one little person said this terrible thing, and I don't want to hurt anybody. Yeah, but yes, it's 1 out of 100, man. So yeah, we shouldn't allow those things. I've gotten that too, and at this point, just okay. Got to tell the 99 people like it, man. So that's a you problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was for me. That was such a growing experience because I guess I come from a background of having been a therapist, and I always, even as a kid, I was always interested in people liking me, and so to hear, and the 1%, they're a loud 1%. They want to be perceived as 50% of the folks out there, but yeah, I remember the first time I got a naysayer, and I'm sure you've gotten naysayers in some of your stuff. I don't know. I felt like I had to win them over, or prove them wrong, or show off to my audience that I could go toe to toe with them or something. And God, I wasted so much energy in comment replies, and it never changed anything, right?
Yeah,
if the person's holding their own problem and trying to dump it on you, you can't change that in a person's by going toe to toe in the comment section. It took me a long time to figure that out. Have you had any funny back and forths or people saying things on any of your content?
So before I really started to put a lot of my this is a problem that I'm still working through for myself, because I'm still very much more of a consumer than I think I am a producer, right? Because it's comfort for me. So I always want to know as much about something before I even do it.
Yeah.
And it's something I'm still working through because I know action is more, it will give you more results than kind of taking a step back and getting information and planning and stuff like that. So I kind of built up a little bit of a resistance to that early on. So like whenever it comes now, like I just like it and then move on with my day. So it's never really bugged me. I see it sometimes, and then perhaps there's a little instance where I'm like, maybe I should respond. Especially on Twitter. Twitter is crazy. Twitter is like, I don't know about this for me. Like on Twitter, because my Twitter is kind of like blowing up now. It's a lot crazier. It's a lot of people kind of get offended based on some of the things that you might say. Oh, my client lost 20 pounds, and he's so happy and healthy. He's getting compliments. He's going on more dates. So what about the people who don't want to lose 25? You're fat shaming. I'm like, oh man, oh geez. So you just kind of like. You just have to see it and not see it, man. Just don't. Just kind of leave it alone.
Yeah. It sounds like you really come toe to toe with that, and I think there is like a huge, I don't know, I guess tension about weight loss right now and physical image. What is your Twitter handle, by the way?
It is at Warren English _ simple.
Warren English _.
Mm-hmm.
And then your Instagram is we.fit, that's we.thit, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Might change that at some point, because I might do some rebranding, because personal brands sell more than business brands. So,
so let's go dive deeper into your business. When you first started, what were you thinking about in terms of like what you were going to sell, like what kind of service?
So I wanted to focus on what I knew, what I had trench knowledge in. So I've worked in person, personal training. I've done a lot of fat loss and muscle building in my own experience as a bodybuilder, and I've played a lot of sports in high school, but I didn't want to focus on that. I have a lot of experience and knowledge in building muscle and losing fat. So that's where my focus is on for everybody. And if it was like 2 years ago, I maybe would have wanted to focus more on the bodybuilding aspect of it. But that could also, that market is very small, right? So the opportunity is very small because of the market, but America is a place where, I think in 2020, the statistic was 41 or 42% of Americans are obese, right? So there's a huge market for weight loss, especially when it comes to fat loss, right? And that is a genuine value that I would be providing to the market. So I wanted to make that a huge focus of it. And then another thing is, there's also, the muscle building aspect of it, which, that's just for people who want to, particularly men and some women, but more so men, who want to also, who are probably very small, skinny, and wanting to increase their confidence, and stuff like that. And I think I can also speak to that as well, because I was once that skinny guy that lacked a lot of confidence. In high school, my first couple of years before I started getting into sports, I was literally called Urkel on campus. I was like Steve Urkel. So I wore like the glasses, and was skinny, and had a high pitched voice before puberty hit and all that. So I resonate with those things. So that's really where I'm targeting, and I think the people that have helped thus far, it's been a great experience working with them. And I feel like I want to build that up to work with more people within that realm, and just help them improve their lives, improve their confidence, improve their health, generally speaking. And
yeah. What was it like getting your first client?
So I'll speak to it when I officially started my business here, because I could say that I've had clients from back then, but when I signed the LLC, when I started doing the things that my business coach taught me, and I got my first ever client, that was such a because business, it has a lot to do with breaking beliefs, man. I did not think that I would be able to come to America, as an outsider, barely know anything about this country, and then 2 years I decide I want to start a business and then actually have somebody actually take interest and get value from what I'm doing. So like that's like the big thing for me. It's a huge belief breaker, but then also like very nerve wracking because like now you have to deliver, right? Because like it's on you, it's your thing, right? It's all of your responsibility. So yeah, I just tried my best, man. I just kind of like did my best to over deliver, and dude is now like 20 pounds deep. He's been traveling all over the world. He's traveled to like 3 continents. I don't know, 7 different countries and states, and he went to a wedding. I think he went to 2 weddings, and then he went to his aunt's graduation, all type of stuff. Like and he's still been able to lose the weight. And because it's like an individualized method, we have meetings, kind of strategize for him and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's been such a rewarding journey, man, for my first client, and it's been great for the others as well.
Yeah. And so, do you do all of this remotely?
100% remote. So they do everything. They get. So I deliver my programs through an app, but you also have tech support with me. So, if you want to check on your form, you take a video of yourself working out in the gym, you send it to me, I'll give you feedback. I have exercise videos within the app, embedded in the app, so I'll be talking about how you do the form well. And then if they have any questions on that, then they, send me the video or ask questions. I have a client community where everybody's in the WhatsApp group, and they're kind of like sharing wins, and they're talking about their journey, because you're in a group of like-minded people, and that helps a lot. You have a lot of that social support and stuff. And yeah, we have weekly meetups where we hop on Zoom. We talk about, basically kind of do like a SWOT analysis. So what were your strengths for this last week? What were your weaknesses? What are the opportunities for us to get better? And what are the threats? What are the upcoming challenges for the next week? And we just strategize around those things, and then move forward from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that community aspect, I didn't realize you had that. That, to me, that's so important. I let me go back. So my kid is about 4.5 now. Right around the time when when my wife was pregnant with him, I started CrossFit. And I know CrossFit is like kind of polarizing, but I had always I did sports in high school. I did, random other things in college, and I was always somewhat active. Never really like ripped or like super strong or anything. And I did CrossFit, and oh my Lord. Well, one, it kicked my ass because I'd never pushed myself that hard. And two, the community, right? So if you go to the same time class, you see the same people. And the gym that I went to, they had a really good atmosphere. And, I was last, finishing all the exercises for like 2 months. I mean, it was a long period of time before I really became kind of in the middle of the pack. And they would like rally around you as you were finishing and like cheer you on. And I worked so much harder with having a community than I did by myself. And it's just so funny that like, we think about changes, whether it's like intellectual changes in grad school, fitness changes, as these like individual journeys that we're on. We get the thing, we do the thing, we get the result. But I feel like the underlying, and maybe it's because I'm being a therapist, but I feel like the underlying of it is the community you're in, because they're basically socializing you to change part of who you are, and it becomes so much more embedded when it's within the framework of a community. That makes so much sense to me.
Yep, it helps a lot, man.
Yeah.
And from a business perspective, also, whenever you have a community aspect of it, top entrepreneurs that I listen to, they would say that people come for the result. They come for the result, but they stay for the community. You built that relationship, and they just don't want to leave because that's where their friends are at. They want to know how Karen is doing next week. Did she lose that 10 pounds? Did she get to do that 225 squat that she was aiming for? So Community brings people together, man, and they keep you sticking around in the gym, in your program, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say there's some grad students out there who are listening and they're thinking, oh, I've thought about starting my own business. I want to start my own business. I've got an idea for it, but I don't know like what to do. What would you suggest they do today or this week or this?
So, one, I would tell them write it down. One, kind of get clear on what is the direction that you want to go, and that's going to change. Just know that that's probably going to change. The second thing I would say is find a mentor. Look for someone who has probably had the same idea, right? And if they've had the same idea, what did they do to actually build it up and accomplish it? And the way the world works is like a free market, like YouTube, social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. People are posting about everything all the time. Like there's so much insight that you can get. And then once you've done that, do they offer like a mentorship? Reach out to people. Do that. And a lot of people, they would just be so humbled that you've reached out and find value in what they're providing, and then they would actually give you the help and support that you need. And if it's either you do it paid or unpaid, either way, you're still getting what you want. And then after that, it's just the entrepreneurial journey was just there, like just figuring things out and just kind of like looking for where your deficits are and what you need, and whether it's I need to find more people who are interested in what I want. So lead generation, and then how do I convince these people that I can provide them value so they can buy my product or service. So and then so there's the lead gen, there's the sales, there's the delivering the value so that they actually get the result that you offer to them, and then kind of scaling up from there. So that is my recommendation to you this week. Go ahead, write it down, find the people who know what you want to do, and ask them questions, get the mentorship, and let's take it from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I forgot what I was going to ask. So you're doing the side hustle or the business right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking a leave from grad school, and what are your views for the next year or so?
So I'll say my business is going to be my only source of income. So this is another thing about grad school that kind of again I've just become a little disillusioned with. Again, I was like tunnel vision, but I also opened myself up to new career opportunities, and I just applied to like a bunch of things because doing this thing in fitness, you meet a lot of people, you learn about different backgrounds and different stories, and I feel like a lot of grad students they're so tunnel vision and it's surrounded all by academics and stuff like that. They have no idea what's going on the outside world. So because I've kind of like taken myself out of that and have the opportunity to communicate and talk to people, I was able to find opportunities and do some things. And I'm actually going to be doing a role, and it's a remote role. So, I still have time to work on my business while I do it as a management consultant for like a tech company that serves the biopharma industry. And, that's given me a lot of freedom. I'm actually in New York City right now. I'm going to be moving to Dallas, Texas the 28th of this month. So not even too long. Because I've been opened up to a lot of, other things and possibilities and opportunities. I have this freedom now. So, yeah, that's what it is for me. So I'm gonna see how that opportunity goes, the career goes with that. Seems like a great gig, but I definitely do for my personal self want eventually for my own business to take over completely, right, and have that just be my main source of income and just kind of grow that as much as I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you could say anything to pre-grad school one, or maybe even pre-military one, what would you say to him about his professional future?
That's a hard one because, I think the pain and the strife and the figuring out, it's all valuable experiences. And I don't think I would probably tell him anything. And I think I'd it sounds harsh, some people might think, to kind of like allow yourself to go through all that pain and struggle and shock and, just struggle. But it's valuable. It's really valuable. So if I couldn't tell him anything, I would, I wouldn't tell him anything so that he feels the pain. But if I could tell him something, it would be maybe to pick a better struggle. Maybe that's probably what I would say. I would still want him to struggle. I would still want him to have to like go through the breaking the beliefs and kind of building up that mental strength and developing the character, right? Because all of those are very valuable things, but do it in a higher reward opportunity, I want to say, at least for me in my own particular circumstances. I don't think my story goes for everybody, but just for me, who I am, my background and stuff, I needed the highest return on investment opportunity out there. And I don't think that grad school was that for me.
Yeah. The part you said about struggle really resonates with me, because a lot of folks have been asking me recently, I was a therapist for a while. I was in grad school for forever, and I had that academic job for almost 2 years. And a lot of folks have been asking me, mainly in my personal life, like, if you could go back, would you still do grad school again? Would you still have done therapy again? Because now, like, my professional life, where I'm at now professionally, I could have just done like out of undergrad. Like I could have gotten a bachelor's degree in whatever and be doing what I do now. And I think what I've come to is kind of like what you said. Like I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't go through this. And so, there's a lot of value in the struggle that's not going to be shown in that, like, diploma you get or like the specific job you have. Like it's those collections of skills and experience that really refines you over time. And honestly, like, there were difficult things that happened when I was a therapist and a grad student that I wouldn't necessarily like want to repeat, or maybe they didn't need to happen. But, overall, I don't know if I would be like as good of a person if I didn't do those things. And I don't know what the alternative is, of course. But anyway, that just made me think about that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
So we're getting close to time. I wanted to dive a little bit more into your business. Can you tell me like what is like your core offering or your main package, or like the standard service you provide?
So the standard service is, so I have 3 main offerings, right? So it's all time-based, right? So either you can sign up for what I have is my fitness fundamentals. So that's my lowest offer. So basically, if you are completely new to the gym, you want to learn the basics of exercise, you want to learn the basics of nutrition, you want to just kind of get yourself into building better long-term habits, like that's for you. If you want to see significant body changes, like you want to drop some body fat or you want to build some muscle, I have my results program, which is the higher level offer. That's going to be around 6 months, right? And then for the complete transformation program, which is a 12-month program, where you would still go through the process of learning the fundamentals. You still get your results, but then after you've gotten your results, right? Because there's a life after your diet. There's a life after building muscle, right? You have to learn how to maintain that, because what you do to get there is a completely different thing from maintaining. For me, it took a lot of time and effort and a lot of volume and a lot of grit in order to build the muscle that I have right now. For me to maintain it, all I do 3 times a week, 30-minute workouts, that's it. It's a completely different thing. So a lot of people think like, you kind of just get the routine and you do that for life. That's not how it works, right? That's not sustainable. There are periods or blocks. So for the transformation program, you learn the fundamentals, you get the results you want, then I teach you to maintain them. And then at that point, once you're satisfied, you go out there in life and, you be the best that you could be. I do have another offer where if you just still want a little bit of accountability after that, you can still be a part of the program, but you're not going to have as many check-ins, but you still get to be a part of the community, and you still get to like keep yourself accountable, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Who would you say are the like prototypes or profiles of clients you've had who've gotten the most out of the programs that you offer?
So the people who have gotten the most of it, definitely people who, again, are a bit new to the world of fitness, and do work with experienced people as well, who are just looking to take it to the next level when it comes to their body composition in terms of building muscle, or they've built some muscle, they've done a bulk for themselves, but they're kind of like struggling in terms of like getting the body fat down into what we call a healthy level. So if that is your goal, where and male and female, whether your goal is to build muscle in some way or to drop body fat in some way, I'm your guy. Whether you are new or intermediate, if you are like an athlete, expert level, I'm not your guy. Full disclosure, but for most people, that's what it is.
Yeah, and you have a free ebook, right? A fat burning guide, I think.
Yeah, Fat Loss Forever. Fat Loss Forever. Just a very quick ebook on some principles if you want to drop fat once and for all. That book is for you. You can get it clicking the link in my bio. Join my Facebook group, and I'll send it over to you.
Very awesome. I am going to download that because, full disclosure, I love working out. I love being active, but I also love eating. And
Don't we all?
having some beers every once in a while. And even when I'm at like my peak fitness, it's the diet that holds me. I say holds me back, but it's a diet that keeps me from being like super cut or anything like that. Like I'll put on muscle, but yeah, I don't do perfect diet for sure.
I totally get that, man.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So any parting words you would say to current grad students? I feel like especially grad students who want to build a side hustle. And there's a lot of them out there who are interested in getting started and just haven't taken like a leap. What do you have like a one-liner or some kind of takeaway for them?
A one-liner? Just do it. Let's hit it like Nike. Just do it, man.
Yeah.
Just do it. You're always going to be afraid, and if there's nothing holding you back from doing it but your emotions, just do it.
Yeah, so true. Are you familiar with exposure therapy?
More than I've read too much on that type of stuff. Exposure therapy is where it's at, man. Like
the only way to neutralize your fear is to.
There you go.
Do it. Yeah.
There you go.
Well said. All right, Warren. Well, thank you for joining me. Let's run back through your socials. So on Instagram, we have WeFit. That's a PHIT. On Twitter, we have Warren English _ You have TikTok.
I do have a TikTok. I forget what the name is. I'm very inconsistent there, but I do have one. It's probably the same thing at Warren English _ Yeah.
And then, do you have a website?
Yes. My website is also found in the link tree on my Instagram. So I believe it's wefit.card.com, but definitely don't quote me on that. I forget, but it's on my link tree.
For sure. So people can go to your Instagram account to find all the necessary links for things. If folks want to reach out to chat with you, is there any method you suggest?
Yeah, no. If you want to reach out for me for coaching, just hit me a DM. Let me know, especially let me know if you listen to this podcast, because that's going to give me a lot of good insight. And if you have any goals, just let me know what you want. If you want to talk about grad school and your journey, if you want to do what I'm doing, just let me know, and I'm more than happy to talk. I'm in my DMs all day. That's a big part of my work.
All right, you hit it up, folks, or you heard it, folks. Hit him up on Instagram. All right, Warren English, thank you so much, sir, for joining the Grad School Sucks podcast. And I wish you well on your journey of building this business. I've been, watching from the start, and it's been awesome to see it transform, and I look forward to seeing it continue to grow.
Same for you, man. Same for you. You're killing it out there. I'm excited to see what you do with this podcast and continue to do in the world of telling people how much grad school sucks.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, I will talk to you in the future, my man.
All right.
All right, bye. Folks, thank you for listening to the Grad School Sucks podcast again, where we believe that your career after grad school shouldn't suck, it should rock. Today's interview was with Warren English. Be sure to check him out on Instagram. You can find him under his full name, Warren English. That's WARREN English. And sign up for his free ebook on how to maximize your physical fitness. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe, leave a comment, or write a review. If you know someone who could benefit from listening to this podcast, please send them today's episode and let them know why they should check it out. As always, I'm your host, Matt Carlson, and I look forward to bringing you another great interview next week. See y'all then. Bye, grads. All right, Warren. If you had to have one superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that one, but I would have to say being able to know everything. That would be the superpower. I think there's nothing that could top that.
What's attractive about that?
What's attractive? I mean, once you know everything, right, you can basically do anything, right?
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. So,
Knowledge is OP.
uh-huh.
Knowledge is OP.